first was about Fuentes. You actually missed kind of a funny opportunity to embarrass him on that Fresh and Fit stream. Zerka said that Fuentes was a straight white male. You should have pointed out that he isn't straight. He is just a white male.
I mean, like, I think we got to that later once he started calling me a cuck, but whether or not he's gay, these are just like accusations. There's no way to actually prove that, right?
Okay, well, let's be real. But anyway, other thing I wanted to ask you about. You're on that other, like, Red Pill podcast or some shit, and you're debating those conservative women on abortion.
Uh-huh.
That was a super cringe debate. They were terrible. But I wanted to ask you, how come you used the, like, you went with a position that, you know, fetal sentience or fetal consciousness arises around 20-week mark, versus your position with me where you cared about language?
My position with you caring about language was differentiating human consciousness versus animal consciousness. My argument with them was about when does consciousness begin to start.
Okay. But you, like, again, that doesn't exactly follow because, okay, even if we grant that consciousness arises around the 20-week mark, you said the differentiating factor between humans and animals is language when it comes to conscious experience.
I said that was one differentiating factor, but I mean, I think our capacity for language shows that we have a wholly different type of sentient experience than whatever even the smartest animal has.
Right, but you said that fetal ability to either understand, well, I guess your position was understand language.
I don't know if fetuses necessarily understand language. They might be able to, they might not be able to. I just know that the parts necessary in a brain for having conscious experience emerge from 20 to 28 weeks.
Well, sure. I could agree on that, but again, your stance was if a human being was incapable of understanding language, you'd be fine with holocausting said human beings.
If a human being, like, well, true. So, like, I'd be okay with holocausting, like, 16-week-old fetuses. Yes. If there were human beings that could never develop the capacity for language, then I'd probably be fine holocausting them. I don't think those would be human beings. It would be something fundamentally different.
Okay, well, so there's an element of being able to in the future here.
No, a conscious human experience, like, has a whole bunch of qualifiers to it that make it fundamentally separate from, like, an animal conscious experience. One of those huge distinctions seems to be our capacity for whatever a priori knowledge we need to comprehend and deploy language. Now, how sophisticated can a newborn do that, or a 20-year-old? I'm not sure. Maybe that is still developing, but I don't think the stages of development of human conscious experience are, we start with lizard consciousness, then we evolve to chicken consciousness, then it evolves to ape consciousness, and then we level up to human consciousness. I would imagine it's human conscious the entire time. It's just the parts are slowly working their way into place as you age.
Okay, so your position is language is one significant aspect, not the aspect differentiating animals and humans to where you'd be okay with holocausting one, not the other.
No, I'm sure there are other fundamentally different experiences that we have between animals and humans as well. Language is just the most sophisticated thing that we deploy, so it's one of the easiest differences to see.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get this straight. So let's assume a 20-week-old fetus has consciousness, but does not have the capability to understand language. Why would you not be okay with killing a 20-week-old fetus?
I don't know if it has. I don't know how I would even determine if it has the ability to understand language. I'm not sure. Are you just saying, okay, like, hypothetically, or?
It could be either one, but I mean, like, you really think a fetus could understand language when even newborn children don't even have, like, phonemic differentiation? Like, they can't even understand the difference between words and random noises.
Is that, I don't know if that's 100% true. I'm not sure.
That is. I think the ability to actually differentiate different sounds starts around 2 years old. And then that's when you can
what?
actually. I might be fudging up the timeline here. Might be like 1.5, but
You're telling me
pretty
a
sure.
1-year-old child can't differentiate between like different words and human voices, or?
So, I'm sure this is a growing skill, right?
Uh-huh.
Sort of like. So, again, I haven't looked into this in a while, but so I might be fudging some of the numbers here, but yeah, like there is a point in time where you can say for certain a child at this age can have phonemic differentiation, and there's a point in time where you can say for certain it doesn't. And for newborn children, that's absolutely the case that they don't have phonemic differentiation. For a 1-year-old, again, I might be fudging up the timelines here. Apparently, they still don't. They might have the ability to some degree, like they might be able to just recognize a familiar sound, like their mom's voice or something. But again, as far as I'm aware, they can't differentiate the difference between a cup slamming on a table and two people talking.
Until what age?
I think it's 2.
There,
But
okay,
in
hold
either
on. I'm not trying to
case-
like. This is just like. Were you telling me that, and I might be biased because I'm dad-brained, but like this is like you coming up to me and telling me that like black people have an average dick length of 7 feet. That's how unimaginably wild that statement is. That up to 2 years old, a child can't like. And again, I might just be biased at parent brain, but I'm pretty sure a 1-year-old child can start to understand sentences and stuff. I'm trying to remember. My kid, it wasn't until there's no way I waited until he was 2 to know the difference between two people talking and slamming a cup on a table. That's a wild statement. I feel like I'm going to make a bad faith accusation, and this is mean for to do it, but I feel like you read somewhere that children have, a 2-year-old child has the intelligence of a dog, and you're trying really, really, really hard to make that stick. Because I cannot think of any world where somebody would say a 2-year-old child, that's when they first gained the ability to distinguish the sounds of voices talking and a cup slamming on a table. That's just an unbelievable statement.
I was talking to somebody who actually majored in just like some sort of it was some sort of neurological science thing, and he specialized in children. And he was telling me there's actually a certain age to where children can actually differentiate. Like again, I might be misremembering, but this is kind of like.
Sure, I would have to
It's
go
not
back
an important.
I'd have to go back and
it's
look
not
it
an
up. But
important
my
point.
understanding is that babies can start to differentiate some words in the womb. That was my understanding.
I find that hard to believe, but
I mean, I don't. They literally have nothing else to do but sit there and develop and soak up whatever stimulus they get, right? Which is going to be sound and, I guess, moving around, and maybe hormones from the mom.
yeah, like phonemic. Like according to you, you used. I can't remember what definition of language you used, but phonemic differentiation was one aspect.
Well, I don't know
Even
why you
if-
have such a hard time understanding this. Hold on. When I say language, I feel like you're really hung up on like the speaking part. I'm using
No.
language as a proxy for an incredibly sophisticated level of human thought not shared by any other animal on the planet. Like the fact that we can use language means that we can have an observation about ourselves in the universe. It means that we can talk about things in another time and place. It means that we can conceptualize things that don't exist. It means that I can communicate something that will happen at like a future time or day. Like we can only use language in the sophisticated manner we do because we can conceptualize all this. The ability to utilize language, that's like a proxy for all of these other things. I don't know when I know it's before 2 years old. I don't know when newborns develop like phonemic differentiation, but the fact that humans have the capability of deploying language that way, that type of thought process is unique to only humans. That's what I'm using it as a
right.
yeah.
Sure, I can grant that, but I think we can agree that there's certain stages of development where that isn't the case.
Sure, there might be, but but it's before 2 years old. I can't get over how wild that statement is.
Okay, well,
You think that a 1-year-old child can't differentiate like sentences or words or commands? Like for a 1-year-old child, is like a cup slamming on the table be the same as their mom or dad talking?
I'm not an expert at this, so
Have you never been around any children
really,
ever in your life at any point? I don't mean that like insulting. I'm just curious.
Crazy.
Okay. That's fair.
I'm actually afraid of children.
Sure. Okay, and that's totally fair. My mom did daycare growing up, so I've been around like little kids like literally my entire life. So that's just for me personally. That's just a really wild statement. It's hard for me to imagine that, but I can understand if you have
but on the other side of this, like if you're going to rely on something like, well, I've been around kids and I can kind of pick up on how they feel and what they can like think. Well, I've been around quite a few animals, and you kind of deny some of these ideas, like, you know, they're self-aware, they can, you know, see into the future, they have like certain feelings, and then you appeal to solipsism. Like, couldn't I just do that with children the same way you do that with animals? Like, I don't think.
Can you give me evidence that a dog can know something that's not? Or like, can you give me evidence that like a dog can know something at a future time and date?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, I mean, dogs anticipate things, so yes.
I mean, a dog can anticipate in a bunch of like incredibly basic if-then statements or Pavlovian responses, but like I don't think I could communicate to a dog, hey, tomorrow we're gonna go to the park 1 hour later.
Right, you might not be able to communicate that. I think with a newborn baby, you wouldn't be able to communicate that either.
Probably not, but I think they have the conceptual capacity for those types of things. I think they're capable of doing it.
Why would you think that? Just because you have a feeling being around babies?
Because babies, because I don't think there are, from my understanding, there's not substantial changes in the development of a brain past, I think it's a few months in utero. I'd have to go check. But I don't think a brain...
What? Can I ask you a question? And the question, what you just said about the dog. So if I communicated to my dog 1 hour later, like if I had a habit, like if my dog behaved different, my dog knows she will go out every day at 10 o'clock, right? Mm-hmm. And tomorrow, like there's a habit that we have after 10 o'clock that she will behave differently. Kind of knowing that she will go out an hour later. Would you count that as communication?
I think that you can get to there's like syntactic differences that you can build that appear to be sophisticated. Like it almost looks like a sophisticated intelligence, but it's just like, it's basically a bunch of kind of like Pavlovian responses. So like, for instance, it might be possible to get a dog to ring a bell knowing that it'll bring somebody home quickly. But I don't think that the dog is conceptualizing, once I ring this bell, another person is going to hear it, and that's going to bring about them to do an action that's going to bring them, like instead they're thinking ring bell, person shows up. So you can probably get like relatively, like I think with apes are really good at this. You can build these pretty sophisticated syntactic systems of if-then statements. If I do this, then this will happen. But I don't think they have the semantic conceptual awareness that humans do. And I think one piece of evidence of this is their total inability to deploy any type of language. But that's just my take on it. I could be wrong on that, but.
All right, like, so your point that there aren't substantial differences in like the brain after I don't know, a child's born. I mean, they don't even have the ability to be self-aware until about at least reflective self-awareness between the ages of 15 and 18 months.
Okay.
Like that. So I mean, I don't know if you did like a brain scan or something with the technology we have now, you might not be able to identify like substantive differences between a child's brain and an adult brain, but like that seems like a pretty fucking huge like real world difference when it comes to your cognitive capacity, not even being able to recognize yourself in a mirror.
Yeah, but I don't know if like cognitive capacity is necessarily the thing I'm looking at when it comes to, because like some animals can display relatively intelligent or sophisticated behavior. Like I'm pretty sure dolphins can do like very sophisticated routines and learn like really large sets, but that doesn't mean that they have like the semantic understanding of the world that a human does, or the conscious like capacity. Yeah, it just shows that they're intelligent.
It appears that they do, and I know for larger whales, I think scientists are coming to a greater consensus that they do in fact have language, and they're able to communicate things like "meet here an hour later," like semantic understandings.
Well, if
But,
that data emerges, that'd be interesting to see.
Well, sure, but I mean, like again, you're talking about things like language being the differentiating factor that
It's not, again, it's not
gives somebody
language, it's the capacity to use language, implies sophisticated structures underneath.
Yeah, so I'm not saying if somebody can talk to me. I mean the ability to understand language. Clearly, a newborn infant child does not have that capacity, and it needs to develop that capacity.
Okay, I'll go look that up more. My understanding is that newborns start to develop that like in utero. That like by the time they're a couple months old, I think they're already recognizing like distinct words and stuff. But I don't know, I could be wrong.
Well, even if that's true, even if they have like phonemic differentiation, like dogs can recognize certain words. They can even understand certain phrases.
Yeah,
like,
but there's no reason for me to think that
2-3
dogs
words in
have
combination.
the conceptual understanding because they never develop it.
Well, again, if you're going to use something like they will develop it in the future, that means they don't have it now. And if you can change the outcome by, say, killing a child, like this is the same kind of issue that the people you were debating ran into, where they admitted to you, okay, like life, well, sentience does not begin at conception. It happens. I don't know if they agree with you.
We're not
the
talking
time
about
frame.
right now if you can use words. We're talking about if you've got like a conscious structure that is capable of like a semantic understanding of the world. Part of that semantic understanding of the world at one point allows you to deploy language. However, it might be that my assumption would be the semantic understanding of the world precedes the development of the faculty of language. So just because something can't use language yet doesn't mean I think it's having a markedly different experience. There's no reason for me to think that.
Okay, so now it's not language necessarily, but you're just using that as a proxy for other cognitive capabilities.
So you literally just restated what I said 10 minutes ago, and you're acting like you're the first one who said. So to be clear, I literally said earlier, language is a proxy for the semantic understanding humans have. Yes.
So you care about semantic understanding.
Yeah, I get, or that's like
what you fundamentally care about.
That's one big part that seems to set human sapience apart from conscious experience of animals. Yes.
Okay, and can you define to me semantic understanding, just so we're both clear?
I don't know. The conscious awareness that humans have of the world seems to be, it seems to be markedly different from any other animal on the planet.
Okay.
Like if somebody were to use the phrase,
a definition of semantic understanding.
If you want the actual definition of semantic understanding, I think semantic understanding is having the awareness of what something is like a sensation or qualia. Like a semantic understanding is if I say like a dog is fuzzy, a dog is fuzzy, or a dog is soft, those are syntactic statements. Like a dog can have the property of that, but having the semantic understanding, the content of that, to know what it is like to feel something soft, to know what it is like for a thing to be like a thing, that's like semantic understanding. So supposedly there's a difference between like a computer syntactically understanding something versus a conscious actually like semantically understanding something. I think. I could be wrong, but you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I'm still not quite satisfied with that definition because I mean, like a dog can recognize if something's soft or hard or prickly.
Oh, well, then maybe for you, then it could be the same thing, I guess.
Well, you haven't really given me a definition of semantic understanding. You just gave me like a weird definition that would also fit like in an animal model.
Well, then you don't have to like my definition of semantic understanding.
I'm not
telling you to use it.
It's not really a definition. You just gave me an example. It wasn't a definition. And again,
when I said semantic understanding is like
animal model.
Semantic understanding is like having an experience where you understand what something is like. So like experiencing like a qualia. That would be like a semantic understanding.
So being able to experience a quality of something is a semantic understanding.
That seems to be a part of it, yes.
Okay, well, my dog knows if something's hard or soft, which is why he always tries to sleep on pillows.
I don't know
So
if that's true. It might be, but if it is for you, then go for it. Who cares?
I
okay,
think the difference
I
is if you could communicate it.
Well,
Because I
no,
mean,
no, no.
if,
That's not necessarily the difference.
if a dog, um, so let's say I say a command to a dog. Most dogs understand the command because of the tone. The word could literally be different, but you can say the same exact thing in the same way that you taught the dog with conditional behavior, like with what do you do to condition dogs? Condition them.
You can take him to the dog thing, yeah.
Well, I mean, what is called the way you classical conditioning. That's what I meant. You can classically condition a dog, but you could do a human too. But the human will be able to perceive and understand the difference between the two experiences that it's having. That the definition of which is only semantic, but a dog will never be able to communicate or show you that difference.
Okay.
So I mean that's the type of difference, or at least I don't know if that helps vegan gains understand what you're trying to say.
Well, he understands,
so
but what he doesn't like is he doesn't feel like my definition of semantic understanding
it
is
wasn't a
meaningfully,
definition.
yeah, whatever I'm saying. He feels like my explanation of semantic understanding doesn't satisfactorily differentiate human experience versus animal experience. So he really wants me to believe that animals have the same experience that humans do. But I think that all of the vegan arguments around animals have the same experience we do is just a form of like intuition pumping and begging the question. You see an animal that's got eyes, it makes noises, and you think, wow, they must think of the world like humans do. But I've
You're
never in my
literally doing that
life.
with babies.
What?
You're literally doing that with babies. So
Yeah, but I've got a
it's-
far better reason to think a baby who has all the same parts of my brain as I do and doesn't significantly change as they're growing up is a lot more similar to my understanding
You
of the world
think
than a dog.
A baby doesn't significantly change growing up?
My understanding is correct that there's not like different brain structures that emerge once a baby is born. Are there? Maybe there are, and I just didn't know that.
Well, the brain doesn't even fully develop until about the age of 25.
So when you say the brain doesn't
I don't
fully
know what
develop,
you mean by.
yeah, no, I might be an idiot.
I
So
don't
what-
even know what you mean by significant structural changes.
Yeah,
what
well,
is,
I mean,
okay,
yeah,
if
we
I
can
were
go-
to put a pin,
Yeah.
if I were to put a pin through your brain,
Uh-huh.
okay, yeah, it wouldn't change many structural things, would it? But like,
well, shit. So that's what I'm
it
asking.
could make
So yeah,
you
yeah. So
blind
you can,
in
yeah.
one eye.
So you can help me.
Like,
so do babies not have like, do babies not have a hippocampus?
Okay, I want to understand what you mean.
Do
by
babies have
significant
like
changes.
a temporal lobe? I'm trying to figure out what part of the brain do you not
Well,
have when you're 1 years
sure,
old?
so do dogs.
Do they have a
But,
thalamus?
like the point I'm.
Do they
like,
have an amygdala?
So do dogs. The problem.
Do they?
I
Okay,
have
wait.
with-
But dogs don't
There's
ever.
so many problems you're
Okay.
making. Like,
Okay.
like, dude, if you're gonna say there's not many structural changes between or structural differences between an infant's brain and an adult brain, I don't know what you mean by that. Because again, if I drove a pin,
I can tell you, but
through
you
your
just
brain,
also keep
that
screaming
wouldn't
random
change.
shit.
That wouldn't cause many
go ahead.
structural changes.
Yep.
But you could become blind in one eye. You could forget how to speak.
True.
Like.
Okay. Okay.
So I
when
don't know what
say,
you mean by many differences.
yeah, you
Like,
keep
clearly
screaming.
there are
I don't know what you mean, and then you keep
differences.
talking. I can just tell you what I mean. Do you want me to tell you what I mean, or do you want to keep grandstanding?
Please.
Okay. What I mean is all of the parts of the brain, the structures of the brain have developed. They might grow, but all the parts are there and new parts don't grow. Like there's not like, you don't like develop your pineal gland at like 10 years old, or your like prefrontal cortex, that whole part doesn't just appear at age 5. That all the main structures and shit of the brain are in place by a few months, I think, in utero. That's my understanding. Am I wrong on that? Are there new parts of the brain that grow when you turn 2?
Well, there are pretty substantive changes when you're talking about.
What does a substantive change mean? Can you explain that to me?
Okay, so like when you're talking about, say, 20 weeks of gestation, yes, so all the like parts of the brain are technically there, but things like folds and wrinkles, like the size, like the just actual size and shape, are substantially different versus an infant.
The size
versus an
wait,
adult.
the shape is substantially different. What is your brain a cube when it comes out of the womb, or?
Okay, do you like? I think you understand what I mean by that.
What I think is that, like, so for instance, here's what I would say: your body, once you're born, is basically all there. You don't change. You don't get new parts of your body as you grow up. They just get bigger and more developed. But once you're born, you've got all your fingers, all your toes, your knees, your dick or your vagina, like all the parts are there. Your gastrointestinal, all of the parts are there. You might grow and mature, but all the parts are there. You're a fully developed human.
Right, but I mean, you're literally smooth-brained at about 20 weeks. Like you don't think that's a substantive difference between?
My understanding is that is it the cerebellum that gets the wrinkles? What part of brain? What part of brain wrinkles? I don't remember. The cortex. I'm sorry. These things that develop, I'm pretty sure these come as
cerebrum.
Okay, cerebrum. These things develop as you like gain intelligence and you become more sophisticated cognitively. But it's not like those folds are a new structure of the brain. I don't believe.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I don't know if that's the case. Like, I mean, there's people who are smooth-brained as adults and they're severely mentally disabled.
That might be the case.
But again, I don't know. I'm still not understanding what you mean by... So, like, you just mean by substantive change, as long as the structure's there, technically, it's not a substantive change. So, when, like, the first few cells of the cortex, begin to form, that's not a substantive change versus when the brain's fully developed?
Well, it's not a structural change. Like, there's a substantive change between like a 10-year-old and a 20-year-old, but they haven't like developed new parts.
Okay. Okay, I think I understand what you mean there. I'm still not understanding what you mean by semantics, because again, you didn't give me a definition. You gave me an example, again, that would like fit an animal model.
I'm not.
So
the parts of the brain that we're talking about.
I'm doing a little bit of Googling. Tell me if this is from vocabulary.com.
Wait, hold on. No. Wait. This conversation is never getting solved with a dictionary definition, okay? Because if it is the case that I lack what semantic understanding means so much, then you reading out a dictionary definition is not going to help me because I'm already lost in the conversation.
It might, because you don't seem to be able to give me a definition. You can only give me examples.
Okay.
So... I just want to know what you mean by semantic understanding, and you can't give me a definition. You just keep giving me examples that would also fit in an animal model, but obviously...
Okay, you keep saying
this
fit in an animal model.
This wouldn't apply to an animal model.
You keep saying, you keep trying to bring this back to an animal model while I'm trying to discern like stages of human development. This is the equivalent of what you're doing. I say, wait, let me just do one. I know you're talking. Let me do one example. Let me do one quick example. Okay, so it's like there's an electric car. And then there's a internal combustion engine car. And I'm telling you, the difference between an electric car and an internal combustion engine car is that the internal combustion engine car uses fossil fuel and the electric car uses a battery. And then you're going, okay, well, doesn't the internal combustion engine car have wheels? And I go, yeah. Okay, well, the electric car has wheels. Okay, sure.
Okay,
but doesn't it have car seats? It's like, yeah, it has car seats. But like, okay, well, doesn't it have like a truck? Doesn't it have the same shape? Yeah, well, because you keep trying to find...
That analogy doesn't make any sense.
There are similarities.
Hold on.
There are similarities between the human conscious experience and I imagine the experience of probably every single living thing on this planet, down to leaves, up to insects, up to primates. There's going to be similarities, right? More similarities with how you go up. But what I'm saying is overall, the sophisticated conceptual understanding that humans have of themselves and the world seems to be incredibly unique to humans. That's my argument for why human sapiens is fundamentally different. Yeah. Okay.
Sure, and the differentiating factor here in particular is semantic understanding. I asked you for a definition of semantic understanding. You didn't give me a definition, and you chose to give me an example, which might have been good enough.
Okay.
But your example would also apply to animals, so that can't be useful in this discussion because you're trying to differentiate humans and animals. So either you need to use a better example or actually give me a solid definition. And
we'll go. Tell me what dictionary.com says, and we'll go with that one. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So semantics is the study of meaning in language. It can be applied to entire texts or to single words. For example, destination and last stop technically mean the same thing, but students of semantics analyze their subtle shades of meaning. So, being able to understand the difference between destination and last stop might have been a better example, but I think you'd have to agree that a 20-week-old fetus wouldn't be able to understand that semantic difference.
Possibly, yeah.
So you'd be in favor of aborting 20-week-old fetuses if they cannot understand that semantic difference?
Okay, let's try this. Why do you think the fetus wouldn't be able to understand it?
Why would I have any reason to believe it could? Like again, at that stage of gestation, there's smooth
Also,
brain.
hold on. The definition you just gave me was literally an example. So,
well, yes, but it's a better example, and I think it allows you to understand the idea behind semantics better than just saying the difference between hard and soft, like you pointed out. I think a dog knows the difference between hard and soft. That's why my dog always tries to sleep on pillows rather than the floor.
okay.
Doesn't mean it understands the difference. It just knows it. It's just responding to a difference.
It associates like a rudimentary feeling to something.
Well, again, I would argue it understands the difference because you can see it adjusts its behavior in the future to where it will see a pillow and it will see the floor and it will go to the pillow. It doesn't just sit on the floor first and then say, oh, that's hard. Let me try to sit in some other random spot. Oh, this is hard too. Oh, this is hard too. Oh, that's better. I'll just sit here. And then it just happens to be a pillow.
There's a difference between the binary recognition of this feels bad, this feels good, and the concepts of soft and hard. Like those.
Well, again, now
You're presuming a lot about how the dog comprehends
sure.
these differences.
And Destiny isn't presuming how a 20-week-old fetus would think?
Well, I will, yeah. I'll presume a bit because we have identical parts, yeah.
Well, we share many similar brain structures.
Many, but remember what you said.
I mean,
Wait. Remember what you said earlier? Poking a needle through somebody's brain could make them blind. So why would I assume just because I share many structures with something that I'm going to have a similar semantic understanding of the world or similar conscious or sapient experience, right?
Well, look, if you're going to compare yourself to a being that literally has a smooth brain versus a being that has folds in its brain, I could just as easily make the same criticism that you're assuming that, I don't know, a fetus or an infant or anybody is thinking the same way you think. Just like how you criticize me. Oh, well, you're just assuming.
Yeah, but we
the
have
dog
we
thinks
literally
this
have
way.
the same part, so I can assume that we have the same emergent experience.
You don't have the same part. Okay, so if I found somebody who's an adult who is smooth-brained.
Wait, smooth brain? I don't know why you think wrinkles in a brain are the differentiating factor between our. That sounds like a cognitive impairment, not like a.
Saying, yeah. So it is. You acknowledge
Well,
it's
it does make a
cognitive
difference, but we can
impairment.
talk about it later. It's not important.
Again, like if you're gonna accuse me of making anthropomorphizing dogs because I'm just applying my own sensibilities to how the dog thinks, I could make that exact same criticism the other way around.
What do you think anthropomorphic
I don't-
means?
Well, it humanize.
Yeah, I don't have to humanize a human.
Well, you absolutely do in the case of a fetus because it does not have the same cognitive capability you do.
It's human.
Okay,
It might not have the same cognitive capability
it's-
I do. Lots of people don't have the same cognitive capability I do. Like, that doesn't make them not human.
Well, can you define what human is?
No, probably something relating to genetic sequence, I would guess.
Right, and I could find, I can find people who are literally brain dead practically, who are completely mentally disabled, who have the same genetic makeup that,
They would be human. They would still be human. A persistent vegetative state, disabled person would still be human. Yeah.
Again, I don't even know why I bothered arguing that point with you, but the criticism you're making of me that I'm humanizing how a dog thinks, you could use that in the other direction.
Sure, that's fair. And I would say that I got more evidence that a baby conceptualizes the world similar to me than you a dog, because a baby and I have the exact same parts that function in the exact same way.
Well, not a fetus. And especially when you consider just obvious cognitive differences, an infant cannot recognize itself in a mirror, and I don't even think they have any kind of self-awareness until a few months into their development. So not just reflective self-awareness, like literally understanding that they're an individual doesn't even occur until a few months later. Like, you think that you can apply your own sort of cognitive reasoning and like think that an infant can use that same sort of cognitive reasoning when there are those massive differences?
I don't think I've ever used cognitive reasoning. I don't think I'm ever talking about cognitive.
Requires cognitive reasoning.
Okay, cognitive to me, and I could be wrong, cognitive to me sounds like prefrontal cortex, like intellectual developments. Like when I think of cognitive processes, I'm thinking of like reasoning and putting two and two together and stuff.
And that's what's required for semantic understanding, which is what you told me is the differentiating factor between human, animal.
Okay, I didn't know. Then I'm just uneducated about it. I didn't know that. I don't think I'm unaware that cognitive understanding is like necessary for putting together like just like having a conscious experience of the world, or we're conceptualizing this in different ways.
You don't need semantic understanding to have conscious experiences, but what you're telling me is that you care about semantic understanding. And I think it's pretty clear that a 20-week-old fetus does not have semantic understanding. Like, again, can you give me any evidence that a fetus would know the difference between a destination and a last stop?
No, but if it doesn't, it's not because it lacks the capability or the process to know that. It just doesn't. It hasn't actually gathered the physical experience to know that.
So can you give me any evidence that a 20-week-old fetus could understand the difference between a destination and a last stop?
No.
Okay, so you.
Well, hang on. In this case, sorry, you do have the evidence that you cited earlier was that the fetus doesn't grow to grow new parts. It has the same parts that will have.
I mean, I couldn't give you evidence that like a child in a poor African village would know the difference between a destination and a last stop because they might have never left their village before. Then they don't use those words. So I don't feel like it's a good question to figure out like
if we're going to use these really flimsy arguments, like, oh well, it has like the same general brain structure that we do.
No.
It must have semantic
Babies don't have
understanding.
the same general brain structure. They have the exact same brain structure. All the same parts that communicate in the same ways.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Okay, so you're telling me if I took a 20-week-old fetus's brain and I took your brain, it would have the exact same structure?
That's my understanding. My understanding is about anywhere from 20 to 28 weeks they have the same structure.
Could you go on screen right now on your stream, Google 20-week-old fetal brain, and Google adult human brain, and then tell me on stream to all your viewers you don't see a difference? Like it's just so visually apparent. I don't even know why you're saying this.
When do last structures of brain develop in fetus? By the end of the second trimester, Gaither says the fetal brain looks structurally much like the adult brain, with the brainstem almost entirely developed. At 7 weeks, the rudimentary brain separates into three distinct parts: front brain, midbrain, and hindbrain. For the first trimester, neurons and synapses begin to develop in the spinal cord. Second trimester, the brain takes control of bodily functions.
Images.
Why do you want me to look at an image? Wait,
look at image.
You're literally giving me the...
You said it's structurally the same.
Yes.
Exactly the same. So go to the image section of Google, bring up fetal brain, 20 weeks gestation, and then bring up adult brain. And tell me there's no structural differences.
I don't know if I can identify a structural difference.
This is getting embarrassing, right?
How big are those structural differences between a fetal brain and an ant's brain, though?
Wait. Hold on, because now I know I've won the argument, because this has gotten so ridiculous. I don't know if I can look at a brain and tell by looking at it the structural differences. First of all, if I'm looking at the brain, I can only see the outside of the brain. I can't cut it and see through, like, even the different. And also, I don't even know if I would know
the image. I see what you're looking at. Open up the image.
Okay.
Open it up on stream, the one on the top right.
Okay.
You don't see a difference here? It says 20 weeks gestation and it shows, what is it, 9 months or something, or... Okay, so we have 22 weeks, and then we have 37... Go back! 22 weeks, 37 weeks. That one was perfect. So tell me if you don't see a structural difference.
Which one?
It was the gray. It was all gray, I think. That the other one that's colored is fine too. But again, just anything. That
Okay,
gives
we're
you the
looking at this.
visual.
Here you go. Okay, so can you tell me we'll say at 100 days, like what structure is at 9 months that's not at 100 days? Since you can look at it and see, can you please tell me?
Sorry, you said that it's structurally identical.
Yep, and you're
or the
laughing and you're
same.
saying they're not. So I'm going to keep asking this question so you'll leave the
Okay.
Discord, by the way. So tell me at 100 days, what structure is not here that's here at 9 months? I'm going to
I'm
ask the
not
same
saying.
question. Yep.
Okay, look, I'm not saying that a structure is either missing or.
Yep.
Or
Okay,
not.
so I'm going to ask again. What structure
So
is here at
you're
9
the one
months
who
that's not
said-
here at 100 days? Because I said they were structurally identical. You said look
okay,
at a
if I
picture and
were
then you
to
laugh.
find-
So I'm asking you, what structure
Okay.
is here at 9 months that's not here at 100 days? Let me know.
Okay, Destiny. Well, a dog has all those same structures as a human.
Really?
They're just different. So
Okay,
can
that's cool,
I-
but I want you to tell me what
can I
structure is
say
present at
dogs
9
have
months
semantic
that's not here at
understanding?
100 days. I'm waiting for you to tell me because we looked at the pictures and now we see the pictures
Okay,
and I realized I was saying. So now I want
Destiny.
you to tell me what structure is present at 9 months that's not present at 100
Destiny.
days. You
A
opened the
dog
picture
has a
and you
cerebral
laughed and you
cortex,
said,
a
"Oh my
dog has a
god,
hypothalamus."
obviously the structure is different." So tell me what structure is there at 9 months that's not here at 100 days. You wanted to look at the pictures and now we're looking at it. So
Destiny.
tell me, we're looking at the picture.
Destiny. We share an evolutionary history with all animals on the planet.
We
A
share an
dog
evolutionary
has a
history with
cerebral
cockroaches.
Yes.
I don't
A
care about
dog
evolutionary
has-
history. I don't have an
Okay,
evolutionary
dude,
history
dog
with a
has
child or a
cerebral
parent. We're the
cortex,
same
a dog
species.
has
We're
a
the
hypothalamus.
That's
a
not what
dog
we're
has all
asking.
these same
Right now, what
basic
we're trying to figure out
structures.
is
They're
what is
just very
present.
different.
What structure is present at 9 months
have-
that's not present at
I'm
100
not
days?
saying there isn't a structure that isn't
Oh,
present
so
at
they're
6
structurally
months.
identical then. There's just a difference
They're
in like
not-
growth or development.
The image is on screen, dude. Do you really like?
I see the
do you
image on
really
screen,
think
so
this is
tell
working?
me. No, I'm just
Buddy,
asking. So what's
like,
present
this
at 9
isn't
months that's not
working.
here at 100 days?
This isn't working. Everybody can see the image on screen.
We all see
it
the
is
picture,
visually
so interpret
apparent
for
the
us.
structures are different.
Oh, so now the structures are different. So what structure is here at 9 months that's not here at 100 days?
I'm not okay. Do you understand that there's a difference between saying that there is a structure missing and the structures are different?
How are the structures different?
Okay, Destiny, do you lack semantic understanding? Should I be able to holocaust you?
Just look at the
because I
pictures.
just
The pictures aren't here.
Because
I want you to explain the pictures. Tell me
I
what's different.
literally just I think Destiny lacks semantic understanding because I just spelt it out for him and he still doesn't understand. Maybe it should be okay to like kill him, according to Destiny's logic. Buddy, this isn't working.
The reason
images
he's
are on
listen. The
screen.
reason he's
You
bringing
can't
up the
fuck
fact that
with
the
me.
structures aren't different is because humans do learn language eventually, and if there's no new structures and they're able to do that, then
So-
then he is presuming that a 20-week-old fetus would have this capability. It just lacks the experience so far. Whereas a dog has the same structures but never learns this capability.
Right, so
Like you're basically you've got a picture of like a big
okay.
circle and a small circle,
Wait,
and you're
wait.
like, you really think these are both circles? This one is so
Okay.
much bigger. Like,
wait. If we're gonna go down this route, all those structures, I'm pretty sure all of those brain structures are actually there at about 12 weeks gestation.
can you here?
Which
Actually, wait. I'm
is-
curious. I got one quick question. On screen, are these both the same structure or different structures? Can you tell me?
Give me a second. The stream's like a few seconds.
Yeah, that's
behind.
fine. I'm just curious. You would consider these the same structure or different structure?
Well, they're both circles, but they are different. Like,
So
I
would you
mean,
say structurally these two things are different?
okay, Destiny, if I were to show you two different apartment buildings and they all have, I don't know, like, whatever fucking structures are in a building,
I'm
vibration
just curious.
dampeners,
I'm just curious
a
structurally. Are
foundation.
these two things
Are
different?
they
That's
the
what I want to know.
same?
I just want to know structurally if these are two different things.
Destiny, you lost the stupid, like, there's a reason why I told you to show the image on screen, and you tried to avoid doing that, and you knew it would make you look bad
Firstly,
if you
I
avoided
didn't
doing
avoid
it.
doing it. I literally
So,
Googled it. This is the same argument
You
pro-lifers
avoided
use when they
doing
say,
it at
look at what the
first
fetus
because
looks
you
like.
knew where this was going. Okay, so yes,
If I avoided doing it, why would I
understand
look it
that
up on
there's two
stream at
circles on
all?
on
There you
screen.
go. Good. They're structurally identical.
Okay,
Good
buddy,
job.
I don't even think you're like, I don't even think you're sycophantic weirdos who like just gobble at your cock all day think this is smart of you. Okay, so if you're gonna say that, oh well, all the structures are there, they're very f***ing different, clearly, as we've seen on screen, but because they're there we can just assume that, that being has semantic understanding. Okay, well, why don't you assume that a fetus at 12 weeks gestation has semantic understanding? Because as far
my
as I'm
understanding
aware,
is that 12
those structures
weeks,
are actually there.
I don't believe that's the case. My understanding is
Well,
that
they are actually there. The actual cells, they're very different shaped, but the actual cells are actually being developed. All
they're
in those
being
locations.
developed, but the parts of the brain that are necessary to have a conscious experience are not fully formed, and they're not capable of communicating with each other
Oh,
yet.
not fully formed. So now you're recognizing that they need to be fully formed, and there needs to be certain structures arranged in a certain way.
Vegan,
It's almost
James,
as if now you've gained the ability of
hold on.
semantic understanding.
Do you think a 9-year-old is fully formed?
No. And I...
What? Okay.
So,
all right, okay.
Again, Destiny,
You're good.
you were telling me before that there is no structural difference between a 20-week-old fetus and an adult human in terms of their brain. We literally showed it on screen that there is, in fact, structural differences. Now you are recognizing those structural differences. Now you are admitting that certain structures have to be formed in a certain way and developed enough to actually be able to have semantic understanding. So why would you assume a 20-week-old fetus has semantic understanding as opposed to, I don't know, a newborn infant or a 5-year-old or an adult?
I don't know, man.
Right. So you think it's okay. So again, according to your logic, it should be okay to abort 20-week-old fetuses.
I guess so. Yeah.
And in fact, it should also be okay to
abort 2-year-olds,
newborn infant, because
True.
again, what evidence do you have that they have semantic understanding?
Nothing, I guess.
Like it should be easy for you to provide evidence of that too, because they're actually outside of the womb. They can communicate on some level, right?
True,
like
true.
you can directly study them.
Yep.
So what evidence do you have that a newborn baby has semantic understanding?
Not a shred, I don't think.
Okay, so according to you, it should be okay to kill newborn babies.
Seems like it, yeah.
Right, so you completely checked out of the debate, and you're doing this, yeah, seems like it, sure, because, you're ridiculous.
Basically.
You do this every time.
I do.
Right, okay. So, I just want to say one thing to your chat. Please stop asking me to have sex with all your girlfriends, because a lot of people from chat come over to my OnlyFans. I don't do that. But if you want to give me Melina's number, feel free, Destiny. Take care.
Good luck, buddy. Do you think that guy? Do you think he f***ed his dog? I think he f***ed his dog.
Stop.
I bet he does. He wants to share his special experiences. If dogs can't feel love like humans, then what's the point of being?
Well, the
vegan,
dog howls, and he's like, "Oh, this dog is capable of language. It has the same structures as a human. This
Absolutely.
is a given consent."
Sounds like his girlfriend when he's fucking it. So why would it not be the same thing? As long as they're making the same noises.
Okay.
So, my
Go ahead.
girlfriend, this chick I met, ended up being a fucking huge vegan gain simp, and she said he always shouts out his OnlyFans. I'm like, I didn't know he had a fucking OnlyFans, and I've never heard him on stream shout it out. Has he done it before with you, or is this the first time and I finally caught it?
I don't think he's done that before with me, but there's a first time for everything.
Well, shit. That's the first time I ever heard it.
I just came in because I wanted to clear up. He kept talking about phonomic differentiation or something. I think he was talking about phonemic differentiation, and this is interesting. I think you'll like it. Phonemes are kind of complicated. First, you have to understand what an allophone is. Like if you take the word home and hope, the O sound between those two words is actually quite different. But we consider them a phoneme in English because we don't consider them different at all. The O in home is like more nasal because it's like reverse inheriting the nasal voiced properties of the M sound, right? Because when you do an M sound, you're pushing air through your nose and your voice is coming through your nose. So the O in home is like oh, right?
Sure.
But we don't really consider these sounds different. So we call this a phoneme, and we call these different sounds allophones. And this is actually a capability that humans have that we don't really have evidence that animals have, is that we kind of lose the ability to distinguish between allophones, or like it demonstrates a greater pattern matching sort of capability, because animals like cats and dogs, they just consider these two different parts of vocabulary. They don't like really learn how to acquire rules and then apply them in new ways the way that we do.
Huh.
The way that we can take 2 allophones or 3 allophones or any multiple of allophones and sort of concatenate them into what's called a phoneme, and then like when we hear it in a different word that has like a completely different set of phonetics except for this allophone, we know how to spell it. Based on our vocabulary and our like whatever it's called, like phonetic system.
And when you hear it, is it called a euphonium?
And babies, like they've done some cool tests where they like subject babies to different sounds, and we know that babies do distinguish between different allophones at an early age, and then they lose the ability based on like, they'll play different sounds over a speaker, and then the baby will sort of stop and contemplate a sound that it's unfamiliar with. And I think this somewhat supplies some evidence to your point about babies like having this capability for language very early on, because when they play sounds, like even at like a very young baby before the babbling stage, when they play sounds that are foreign to like the native language of the host, the mother and the father, they show a strong response to that, but they show a very light or no response to sounds of the native language, even if it hasn't really been exposed to much language. But that suggests that it may be growing accustomed to this during, while it's in
this is
the
a
womb.
major copium. I can't believe you guys just lost to Vegan Gains. He destroyed you.
I mean, once I had to look at the pictures, I knew it was over. Okay, you can't.
Big vegan
You can't
W's.
survive.
Oh my God.
You can't survive the picture debate. So
That's embarrassing. I can't believe you want to kill newborn babies. I fucking knew it.
true.
Leave it to Vegan to. What was his OnlyFans, by the way? Just asking for.
I think it was www.hugedickformelina.com. Is his yeah.
Now I'm super jealous. Well,
Are you
Lycan,
sick, Kyla?
Supreme, you guys, no. I just had a
Sick in the
really
head,
shitty
maybe.
night. Nope. Sick of my friends who can't even fucking debate Vegan Gains.
True.
Big-
Uyghur gains? So we're what?
Why'd you have
what
an
were
Indian
saying.
accent for a second?
I think
there?
you're too
What was
white
Ooh.
to say that, Lycan.
Ooh.
I'm not white. I'm Italian. You guys have seen True Romance.
All right, you're white where it counts when you're Italian.
Jesus.
Okay,
Okay, Erudite, what'd you come in here for? What do you want?
That's it. I just wanted to tell you that you lost to Vegan Gains.
Oh, thanks. Okay.
Okay, bye guys.
Loser.
But you are making a presumption about like a 20-week-old fetus's capabilities, that it could like exit the womb and learn language. I don't know how true that is, and
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
know.
It
if
could be
that's-
that there are actual stages of development that prior to some like milestone, it actually doesn't resemble some kind of human conscious experience. That's possible. But I figure you probably
statistically,
err on
though-
the side of caution, right? And not kill people.
Yeah, I guess like. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say there are babies, sorry, not people, that before 1 year old have like started to learn alphabet and language and shit like that. But it's like what, 1 in a million kind of deal, right? So I mean, you're kind of talking to a very small percentage at that point.
Yeah, but that's a 1-year-old compared to 20 weeks.
Ooh.
Oh, I mean, yeah, true. Maybe they can't learn it that quickly. I'm just saying under 1 year old being able to do it, not just a 1 year old.
I guess so I've heard you give your pro-choice talking points before, and it seems to rest largely on this conscious experience thing, and that like a 16 or 20-week-old fetus is like capable of having a conscious experience that like an 8-week-old fetus isn't, or something like that. I think there's a lot of merit to the idea that that an 8-week-old fetus will grow to be a 20-week-old fetus. And I've heard you say before that then we get into weird territory where we have to think about protecting every ovary and sperm and stuff. I guess I'm curious about that. Or are you interested in talking about that at all, or giving me like more fleshed out thoughts before I start, poking into that?
Yeah, I mean, like the potential for a thing is not the thing itself. Something might grow into a thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean it gets all the rights and protections of the thing it'll grow into. There's a difference between the potential to become a thing and the thing itself, I would say.
Not all the rights and protections, but a fair amount of consideration. I think.
Consideration, for sure. If somebody like destroyed all the parts of a building I had before I put it together, I'd be upset because I was deprived of a building. Much the same that if somebody punched me in the stomach when my fetus was only 8 weeks old, or hit me in the stomach so that I couldn't conceive next week, if that was possible, I'd feel deprived of a baby. But I wouldn't say that a baby was killed.
Yeah. Well, that's just I think that's more of a not a semantic difference, but a vocabulary difference, difference in definitions of what is a baby. I guess that is semantic.
I don't know if it would be just a semantic. Here we're using semantic in like the normie way, not like the semantic content understanding. I do think that that's a substantial difference, though, that there is a difference between depriving somebody of a thing versus taking a thing, right? Like there's a difference between, let's say somebody for some reason prevents me from working for a day and I could have earned, $150. That is different than me working for a day and then somebody stealing $150. There's going to be some similarities, but there's also some important differences, I think.
Yeah, and I understand what you're arguing is that, like an embryo, I would say that we should consider it tragic that even a 1-day-old embryo is killed or something, right? Especially if it's done through human intervention or something like that.
Well, if you think it's a person, yeah.
No, not even if I think it's a person. Even if I think it's a future person, I think that still counts. But we can also argue that an embryo doesn't yet have rights, or the right to life anyway.
Okay.
I'm just curious how you feel about that sentiment, or if you see any problems with it or something.
I mean, I don't know why you would. I mean, the only way you would care if it was killed is if you wanted a baby, right?
Well, no, because I don't think so, because this thing will eventually grow to be something that does have rights, and we do tailor the experience, and we do, like, there's a reason that children have rights or babies have rights, despite the fact that they're missing a lot of the cognitive capabilities and human capabilities and skills or whatever that we expect like a grown adult to have, that we afford rights to as well. Well, adults in certain conditions and not in other conditions, like a Terry Schiavo situation, right?
Sure. But again, I don't see the
the reason that you wouldn't kill somebody who's unconscious but is expected to regain consciousness, but you would kill somebody who's like a vegetable who's expected never to regain consciousness.
Sure. I guess what is the point we're trying to make, or what is the point you're trying to make here, or the point you are making?
The point that's being made is that you are making a decision on somebody's right to life based on an expectation of the consciousness that they will have in the future.
Do you want to do the comparison between like an unconscious person who will become conscious again, or?
We can. I guess I'm curious, like what distinction you make between that and an embryo or something that is expected to grow into a healthy baby.
Yeah, I think that, like, technically, at all points in time, like, our conscious experience is, like, developing and changing, right? But there was, like, there was a thing before, and then it's becoming a thing constantly, right? Like, you're not the same person you were yesterday, and you'll be a different person tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm.
If I understand what you mean, I would argue that in very minuscule ways and in unimportant ways for this argument. But
sure, yeah. But I'm just saying that, like, you're constantly changing. Sleep and all of that are like parts of, like, you go to sleep, you were a thing, it's like kind of there, just like temporarily abated, and then when you wake up, it'll reinstantiate itself. But it's not like it's emerging for the first time as a new thing. If I were to kill you while you're sleeping, there's a person that I can speak of as being harmed, like Wicked Supreme is being killed, right? I don't have to rely on a future thing to say that. What I have is that you do exist and you have existed. You might have a temporary abatement of consciousness, but like, I'm killing you, there's a thing to speak of. If you were a fetus and I kill you before you even have that first consciousness, then there's not even a thing to speak of for being harmed. There's only a body, there's no mind.
Sure, I understand that that's a useful distinction. What if a person is expected to be completely amnesiac when they wake?
Then, wait, give me more precisely what that definition means.
Like if a person is expected to emerge with a new identity and without any of their memories or something like that.
I don't know. That's really tricky. I don't know what the answer to that one is. If you want to nibble around the edges of like what makes our identity, I'm not going to be able to give you hard answers for anything because it's very challenging. But that extends even beyond like questions of abortion or whatever. I wish I had a paper.
I think it relates for my argument, but sorry, go ahead.
I read a paper, this is like 5 or 10 years ago. It was a philosophy paper on like, the author of the paper made the argument that if somebody has dementia in prison, it's unethical to keep that person in prison. Because like, let's say that you're in prison, you don't even remember the crime you've committed. You can make an argument that the identity of the person has sufficiently changed that they're being jailed for basically an action that somebody else did. It was an interesting argument in terms of identity. So if you're going to start nibbling around that, like, let's say you go to sleep and every time you wake up, you've got all the new memories of a totally new person. Like, could you kill that person while sleeping? I'm not sure. That's a challenging question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, agreed. I don't have one. That is really, I mean, just the concept of dementia. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really rough. But for my argument, again, it's on the expectation that a thing will, grow into, or will eventually have an identity. I don't think that's...
It will have an identity, but it doesn't have one yet. So the only thing you're killing is like a future potential, but you're not actually killing a thing itself. You're killing the potential.
That's true.
Of the thing, yeah.
And even that's based on the odds. You don't know if an embryo is going to grow into a healthy baby or something that's going to live or not be miscarried.
I mean, we'd assume so, but yeah, true. It might not necessarily.
I think that's a valid argument. And I think like that's the argument you have to make, because that's the argument pro-lifers are making, and I think it's a good argument. I just don't like hearing...
Why is it a good argument?
Because we do things, we tailor, we afford rights to children, and we tailor the experiences of humans based on an expectation of what they will be all the time. That's the basis for education.
But it's also what they are right now. Like if somebody was a 9-year-old child and we expected their development were to stunt and they would never develop past 9 years old, we'd probably still protect their right to life.
So I feel like the conversation around like child abuse is much less about how it affects the child in the right now and how much it will affect the child's development and what they will grow into.
I mean, even if it was, that is part of it.
That's an important consideration, whether you agree it's the most important part, right? It is extremely important.
Sure, but like that's true of all stages of development too, right? Like even if you're an adult, people would consider like how much is a harm of you now, like also harming you in the future too, right?
Yeah, that's another example of the consideration we make of like what you will become and why we...
Sure, but I mean, like you're still at all points in time, you're considering the harm of a person, right? So if I harm a child now, not only am I harming them now, but they'll be harmed in the future.
Okay,
if
I
kill a
understand.
fetus now, nothing is being harmed in the future because it didn't even exist, right?
I understand. This is like the real linchpin of your entire argument is that an embryo is not a person, and I fundamentally agree.
Sure. But this is the difference between that. Somebody brought up. This is like my dropping a piano argument. If I put a piano on top of a building and I set it to fall in 5 minutes, I haven't really committed any harm yet. But if I do that knowing that a person is going to be there in the future, well, that's really bad because I'm causing harm to a person in the future. But if I just like push the piano off immediately and there's a person that's not below me on the ground yet, I haven't harmed anybody. I just pushed the piano off a building. Nothing. There's no harm, no foul, unless it's illegal. So I view abortion as being the same way. That like if you abort a fetus before it's even become a person, then you haven't committed any harms yet.
I think the argument is that true, even if we agree it is not currently a person, the fact that it will be a person is just as bad as, for example, like if you... Oh, shoot. I'm coming up with hypotheticals in the moment, and I'm seeing where you can show that they fall apart. I was going to say, like, if you fucking strap a time bomb to an embryo that's set for 24 years or something like that, like, you're not doing anything to a person.
Yeah, it wouldn't be unethical putting the time bomb on the embryo. It would be because it's going to develop and then become a person in the future. Yeah, that's what makes it unethical, yeah.
I understand. I feel like the arguments of... So I'm pro-choice, but I feel like the stronger arguments have more to do with how it affects like the woman's body. It's a permanent change, and
yeah, but does that permanent change really warrant the murder of a child?
Well, if it's not yet a child, if it's an embryo, if we agree that an embryo is not a child or a person, I just don't think it should be taken lightly, right?
Well, why shouldn't if it's just an embryo, why shouldn't it be taken lightly?
Because it is something that does have a chance to become a human, and we make considerations on.
But like me hugging a girl at a party is a chance to make a human.
No, not in the same way. Like
not in the same way, but in a way, there's a potentiality there. Maybe we start talking. Maybe we have sex. Maybe we create a person.
Not all in the same way of a fetus being created.
I mean, what do you think leads to the creation of a fetus?
Sure, you meet a girl, but no one's going to be like, oh, you met a girl and you didn't copulate with her, so you've been a murderer.
Not at all in the way of...
I mean, I don't know. Have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
I understand the argument, and it's an interesting argument, and I think you can get like pretty autistic with it, and I think it is interesting and it's fun, but like the fundamental difference is that a fetus is something that is already alive, right? It's like it's already alive and it will develop mostly autonomously until it becomes a person.
Sure. Yeah, it is alive. I just don't know if it's a person thing yet. Yeah, but
yeah, it's not yet. I think this is one of those things where like, I think if you're pro-choice, and you're arguing about it, you should give a lot of leeway for these arguments because it should be on the razor's edge. And I don't know. It shouldn't be. I feel like I've heard you say like, fuck it, torch the embryos or burn them, and I think that's you just being hyperbolic or fun in the moment or something like that. But like if it were on the survival of the human race, you would probably treat an embryo very differently. If it were like the last hope for the human race, and you probably would start to treat
Absolutely,
this thing like,
yeah,
this
of
is a
course.
future person.
But I treat a lot of things differently. Like if it was the last 2 people alive, I would treat like their fertility as like the highest priority as well. I'd probably treat a lot of things. Yeah, of course. But that has nothing to do with the embryo itself. Now we're making like these are like grander meta arguments around like civilization surviving and shit.
No, I think it does. I think it does have something to do with the embryo itself.
Okay.
I mean, even if the survival of the human race wasn't at stake, if we were like seeding another planet and we sent 100 embryos, if you would learn that spaceship died or whatever the fuck.